Jumping to his full 5 feet 4 inches, the inspector bellowed, "Who in the hell are you?" The vacuum cleaner began to whine like a bandsaw from Ellery's bedroom beyond the study. Blue Shirt shut the study door, muffling the noise. He wedged his back in the doorway. "If this is a stick-up—" Blue Shirt grinned, and Brown Shirt, at the window, permitted himself a smile that only briefly shattered his expression. His glance remained on 87th Street below. "It's the politest one in history," said Ellery. "You, at the window. Would you get nervous if I looked over your shoulder?" The man shook his head impatiently. A black town car with a New York license plate was just swinging into West 87th Street from Columbus Avenue. Ellery saw its glittering mate parked across the street. Several men were in the parked car. Brown Shirt's left hand came up, and 2 of the men in the parked car jumped out and raced across the street to the sidewalk below the Queen windows. As they reached the curb, the car, which had turned into 87th Street, slid to a stop before the house. One of the men ran up the brownstone steps. The other swiftly opened the rear door of the car and stepped back, looking not into the car, but up and down the street. A smallish man got out of the town car. He was dressed in a nondescript suit and he wore an out-of-shape gray hat. In a leisurely way, he mounted the brownstone steps and passed from view. "Recognize him, Dad?" Inspector Queen at Ellery's shoulder shook his head. He looked bewildered. "Neither do I." Brown Shirt was now at the door of the inspector's bedroom, so that he and Blue Shirt faced each other from opposite sides of the room. Their foreshortened police positives dangled at their thighs. Their companion on the landing stepped up to the newel post, and now his right hand was visible too, grasping a third .38. Mrs. Fabricant's machine kept sawing. Suddenly, out in the hall, the third man backed away. The smallish man's shapeless hat and undistinguished suit began to rise from the stairwell. "Good morning," said the smallish man, removing his hat. He had a voice like a steel guitar string. Seen close up, he was not so small as he had appeared. He was several inches taller than Inspector Queen, but he had the inspector's small bones and the narrow face structure of many undersized men. His head broadened at the temples, and his forehead was scholarly. His skin was bland and firm, with an undertinge of indoor gray. His hair mouse brown, with a tendency to scamper. His eyes, which were protected by squarish rimless glasses, had a bulgy and heavy-lidded look. But this was an illusion. His blinking stare was unavoidable. A growing pot strained the button of his single-breasted jacket, which could have done with a pressing. He looked as if he ought to be wearing a square derby and a piped vest. He might have been 50, or 60, or even 45. Ellery's first impression was categorical. The absent-minded professor. The rather high-pitched Yankee voice of authority went with examinations and blackboards. But professors, absent-minded or otherwise, do not go about the city accompanied by armed guards in powerful cars. Ellery revised. A general, perhaps. One of the intellectual brass. A staff man who moved mountains from the Pentagon. Or an old-fashioned banker from Vermont. But "My name," twanged the visitor, "is Abel Bendigo." "Bendigo?" The inspector stared. "You're not the Bendigo." "Hardly," said Abel Bendigo with a smile. "I take it you've never seen his photograph. But you see what I'm up against, Inspector Queen. These security people are members of my brother's Public Relations and Personnel Department, which is under the command of a very hard fellow named Spring, Colonel Spring. I doubt if you've ever heard of him. He tyrannizes us all, even my brother, or I should say especially my brother." "And so, you're Ellery